So whenever they're ready to sell, at least they give you a fair chance of making an offer, if nothing else. So at least you feel like you had the shot to get this property. Like you mentioned a few years ago, when you missed out on deals, like you didn't even know, you could have easily paid for that property, but the seller didn't even think of you. Just seller didn't. Like, imagine how frustrating that is.
Welcome to the Multifamily Wealth Podcast. I'm your host, Axel Ragnarsson, and on this show, I dissect how seasoned multifamily investors started, built, and scaled their businesses. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode here on the Multifamily Wealth Podcast. In this episode, I'm chatting with Sharad Mehta, who is the founder and CEO of REsimpli, which is one of the most well-known real estate-specific CRMs in the entire industry. It's the CRM that we use in our business to manage everything we do from a direct-to-seller standpoint, manage all of our lists, our outgoing direct mail, our cold calling, our texting, all of that stuff. And I wanted to have Sharad on the podcast because just by virtue of being the owner of such an organization, he has incredible insight into what works from a direct-to-seller standpoint. And on top of owning REsimpli, the CRM platform, he's also a real estate investor himself. So he's somebody who has flipped numerous homes, dozens and dozens of homes throughout his career. He's built a very sizable rental portfolio, the vast majority of which he has paid off from a debt standpoint. And in this episode, we just dive into how you can best utilize a CRM as a real estate investor, how you can start sending direct mail and start actually doing some direct-to-seller marketing as well. And Sharad shares some great tips as it relates to figuring out how to allocate your budget most effectively when you're starting your direct-to-seller marketing journey in terms of you're starting to send some mail and actually build out that side of your business. So this is a great episode for everybody out there that wants to do some direct-to-seller marketing but hasn't really started yet. And for those that are looking to further dial in how they can best utilize their CRM. And this isn't going to be just a lengthy podcast episode commercial for REsimpli, although we do talk about the platform here and there. It is a platform I'm very passionate about using. We've used it in our business for the last year. We're going to continue using it into the future. So we do talk about it here and there, but it's not necessarily a big commercial. And we spend most of this conversation speaking generally about direct-to-seller marketing and how to best nurture leads, follow up with leads, and build a pipeline. So I think you're going to get a lot of value out of this episode if you're somebody that is looking to further solidify their skills in that segment of the real estate business. And if you did enjoy this episode, please consider leaving the show a rating and a review. Helps the show get noticed by more folks. And that's always our objective with this podcast, is to help multifamily investors better invest, better grow their business. And by getting this in front of more individuals, it makes it easier for us to accomplish that fundamental objective. But let's get to this episode with Sharad Mehta, and I'll catch you guys in the next episode. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Multifamily Wealth Podcast. Joining me is a friend of mine, Sharad, who is an excellent real estate investor, somebody who's built a considerable portfolio of rental properties, who's flipped a bunch of homes. And maybe what he's best known for is founding one of the most well-known real estate CRMs that is available in the industry, REsimpli, one that we use. And I'm sure I touched on it in my opening intro here. But I think this is going to be a great conversation as it relates to going direct to seller to buy real estate, fundamental concepts that investors need to be considerate about when they're actually going out there and building a direct to seller pipeline. And then, Sharad, I'm sure we're going to talk about your real estate portfolio as well. But before we get into all that, why don't we back up however far into the past you'd like to go and share a little bit more about your story, where you're from, and how you found the real estate business.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So my name is Sharad. I'm the owner and founder of REsimpli. I started investing back in 2010 is when I bought my first 2-unit property. Then I bought another 3-unit after that. This is like back in the day, 2010, just ridiculous prices. And I was working as a full-time accountant, and I talked to my wife. She was also an accountant and still is. And I told my wife, look, this is like once in a lifetime opportunity. If I'm thinking of leaving my job, if I leave my job, the upside is infinite. The downside is, we lose all the money that I'm investing, which is, in the big scheme of things, is not a lot of money. And I could always just go get this job back in a year or two. So decided to leave my job, just started buying a bunch of rental properties. I own 50 doors, 45 of them are paid for free and clear. And then just kind of started scaling from there, right? I started, selling to other investors, turnkey properties, house flipping. And then 2015, I moved to Carlsbad, where I live now. And I started looking at my business as, I needed systems and processes. It's interesting, when I was living in Indiana, living in Chicago, investing in Indiana, I didn't really see, I had a very inefficient business. I didn't really see a need to run an efficient business. I wasn't in any mastermind. So, I was just kind of running my own thing, and left a lot of money on the table running such inefficient business. 2015, when I moved to San Diego area, Carlsbad, started looking at my business. I'm like, holy shit, I'll need like a lot of systems and processes. So I started looking at software solutions, didn't really find anything that I could use. Like Portia was pretty much what most of investors was using. I didn't like the idea of using 10 different software to run my business. It just didn't appeal to me ever. So I thought, I'm going to hire a couple of developers. So I did that in 2017 and just kind of started 2017 with what, I needed to build, and kind of grew into what it is now. And I'm still flipping. I live in Carlsbad. I'm still flipping in Indiana area. We do a lot of direct to seller marketing. That's how we find majority of our properties and sell to other investors who are looking to buy turnkey cash flow properties.
Love it. So you're clearly a busy guy. I mean, this is just out of my own curiosity, how do you manage where you spend your time and what you focus on between actively flipping real estate, running a growing business, REsimpli on the software side, managing the rental portfolio in whatever capacity you're involved there? How do you reconcile all of these different things?
Yeah. So for the house flipping business, everyone on my team it's all virtual. I live in Southern California. My project manager, so we do pretty large rehab. She lives an hour north of me, and my lead manager, she lives in Canada. We don't have anyone local, but we're of course using REsimpli. So everything is managed through the system. I spend on average about an hour a week managing my house flipping business. At this point, we're doing about 15, 20 to 25 deals a year. And my project manager, Claudia, she's been with me for 6-7 years now. She knows the business. She gets a percentage of the profit that we make. My decision is just the property that we're going to buy. I mean, even that, I'm not deciding as much. Like Claudia's making that decision. She'll just run the numbers by me, and I'll just say, yeah, looks good, let's do it. And then I'm just signing the buy side and sell side documents. For my rental portfolio, I own a property management company also. So they manage my rental properties, and then other investors that we sell properties to. So we manage about 200 units. Mostly, they're all either my units or the other properties that we've sold to other investors. And then with REsimpli, or just with any of the 3 businesses that I have, like making sure we have the right people in the right seat doing the right thing, that takes a lot off my plate, so I can just focus on the things that will add the most value to the business. It'll just make the biggest impact, help the business grow. So been very fortunate to have really good people that I'm working with. So yeah, been lucky with that.
Yeah, I mean, you've clearly found some foundational team members and incentivized them in the right way to take ownership over operating any of these different lines of businesses that you're describing. You mentioned, though, and I just want to touch on this briefly before we get into how investors can excel at direct-to-seller marketing, all of that, which I think is going to be the meat of our conversation today. But you mentioned that you own 50 or so rental properties. I can't remember if you said all of them or the vast majority of them were free and clear. Was that the objective when you bought them, or is that a situation where you paid down over time or paid down balances over time? And because no debt is probably a bit contrarian with how a lot of folks view investing in real estate. So curious to hear your process there.
Yeah, absolutely. Great question, man. So after 50 units, 45 are paid for free and clear. The other 5 units, they have pretty minimal balance of, combined for both, 2 properties that have 5 units, like maybe 50, 60,000. So I could pay it off, but, just low interest rate. But no, it was actually influenced a lot by Dave Ramsey. I don't know if you know him, heard of him. So it was very heavily influenced by Dave Ramsey. It happened around, I started investing around the time, this whole economy was collapsing due to real estate. And the biggest reason was people were over leveraged. And then, I used to be an accountant in my previous life. So I was a lot into personal finance. I would follow a lot, Dave Ramsey and Susie Orman. But for some reason, I just like connected more with Dave Ramsey, just his whole philosophy, maybe at that stage in my life where I was. And then, I just made a decision that, what, I'm going to buy these properties. I'm going to try to pay them off as quickly as possible, or buy them with cash and not have to worry about mortgage. So that was the decision. I mean, I'm an accountant, so I totally understand. I could leverage, and instead of 50 units, I could have 200 units to 50 units, but that's not my goal. I'm very happy just having 50 units, no mortgage for the most part. And then, being able to do other things that I've done in life, just starting REsimpli. That would not have happened probably if I had 200 to 50 units, because that was take up a lot of my time. So, it happened for the reason. But yeah, I would give credit to Dave Ramsey, whether, good or bad. Yeah, it's Dave Ramsey was a huge influence.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think there's a lot to be said about there isn't a right answer. I think a lot of folks think there is a right answer, right? And in reality, you can optimize for different things, right? If you want to optimize for absolute maximum financial returns, yeah, you probably go out there and get some leverage. But if you want to optimize for peace of mind and simplicity and downside mitigation and risk mitigation, well, then you should use no debt or less debt, or however you define that.
Absolutely.
It's funny because I think when people are getting into the business, I say people, I think a lot of investors, when they get in the business, they go the route of using a lot of leverage because you oftentimes kind of have to, right? You want to stretch your own cash. You really want to make, you want to turn your dollar into 2, 3, 4 within a year, a couple of years. And oftentimes the only way to really do that is to borrow a lot of money. And then priorities shift over time, where it's like, once you start to make it and once you start to have it, you care more about not losing it than making that stretch a little bit more.
Right.
So I think it's there's a lot of nuance to that conversation. And I think a lot of people view it as a black and white conversation, and it's not, right? I think it's different for different people. So I find that interesting.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
With that being said, let's shift a little bit here. Let's talk about direct to seller marketing. I want to talk about specifically the importance of using a CRM. Obviously, you own REsimpli, which is a CRM platform designed for real estate investors, which we use in our business. As I believe we've used it for a very long time. We love REsimpli.
Thank you, man.
But let's start here, because I think I want to bounce a few different things. Just from a high level, this isn't specific to REsimpli. This is just talking about CRMs in general.
Sure.
Why does an investor need to use a CRM? And what are the main functions of a CRM? What's the purpose of it for a real estate investor, and why should they be using one? Assuming they're going direct to seller, I should say.
Yeah, if I put it in a different context, let's say, you own a phone, right? If you only have 1 or 2 friends, let's say if you only have your parents that you call, text, you don't have anybody else, you don't really need to save their contact, right? You could just remember their name, phone number, just call them. You don't even need a reminder, hey, you should call your mom every day, right? But as you know more people, as you make more contacts, right, you need a contact management system, right? That's what the CRM is, right? It's just a contact management system. So putting it in context of real estate, let's say if you're just buying a property here and there, right, once a year, you're buying it from, LoopNet, MLS, wherever it's listed property, you're just buying one property here and there. You don't really need, honestly, a CRM, right? The CRM comes into place when you are, I don't want to say serious about your business, but when you want to take your business to the next level, right? You want to scale your business. So rather than just going after one property, you're making offers on multiple properties. Now you need to keep track of everything. Let's say you look at 10 properties, right? Or you send mail to 100 properties, 10 people are, kind of interested in hitting the offer. There's so much you can keep in your head before it kind of, gets all meshed up. So that's where a CRM comes into play, right? It will keep all your logs of all the communication that you've had, which properties in what stage. So if you have 10 properties, you made offers on some, you're doing due diligence on some of them. Some you're trying to get in touch with a seller, but you're having all these different conversations where you're making an offer. You don't know how much you've offered on that property, how much you should offer on the property, what your due diligence numbers are. that's where you can really, really start mixing up everything that's going on. And then you have to look at the system. You have to start with end in mind. Okay, where do I see my business in a year, 2 years, 5 years? Wherever you see that, start with that. Think of what process you would need in 1 to 5 years time period, and start building that process in right now. If your goal is to just, like keep buying a property here and there every year, and that's where you see in 5 years, you don't need a CRM. But if you see yourself buying multiple properties, you're doing direct to seller marketing to get, better value on your properties, that's where the CRM comes in really handy. You're calling from the system, you're texting from the system, you're sending emails from the system, you're managing all your marketing. So when you go into any lead, if a seller calls you back, you don't have to look at your notebook, you don't have to go through your phone. You just go into the CRM and then see every single conversation you've had. So when you pick up with the seller, you make the seller feel like they're the only person in the world that you're talking to. Imagine you're talking to a seller and the seller says, hey, I'm looking to sell my property because I want to retire and I want to move to Florida, for example, right? You want to make sure you capture that information. And when you're speaking with them, you can pick up, hey, I know last time we spoke, you mentioned that you're looking to move to Florida. Have you picked up like what part of Florida you want to move to? Orlando, Miami, Key West, so it just makes them feel like that you really listen to them. You don't have to remember this stuff. You can just let the system record the conversation before you call them. Just listen to the recording or take notes, and you just pick up exactly where you left off. It makes the person feel connected. It makes, you build rapport with the seller. So it comes in super handy with your direct to seller marketing.
Yeah, absolutely. And real quick, this could be a quick one before we hop to the next thing. Is there a level, let's assume that we have an investor listening who is doing some direct to seller, or they're looking to do some direct to seller marketing. They want to send some mail. Maybe they want to start making some cold calls. Is there a level that they need to get to before it makes sense to start spending money on a CRM and really embracing the adoption of it?
That's a great question, man. It's a fantastic question. I would say if you're spending more than, on average, 500 to 1,000 a month, I would definitely look into that.
Yeah.
It's not, your marketing ROI is only going to go higher with a system you have in place. I'm not saying REsimpli, but I'm just saying any system that you have in place. If you're spending more than 500 to like 1,000 a month on average, definitely invest in a system.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I mean, when I got started sending direct mail, I was sending like 150 letters a month, which was $150. And
Right.
You maybe get a couple calls.
Yeah.
You're saving sellers in your phone at that point, like with their contact name, right? You don't necessarily need it, but once you're managing dozens of conversations,
Absolutely.
that's at the point where
100%.
it starts to get out of control. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So obviously we just talked about the higher level the use of a CRM or the role of it within the overall context of going direct to seller and trying to get off-market deals or trying to find off-market deals. Really, the core purpose, I think, for most investors is obviously, as you mentioned, it's a place to store all of the information as it relates to all the conversations you've had, the contact history, property information. It's a contact database. Really, the big objective is to help you streamline and systematize how you nurture leads from the top of the funnel out the bottom of the funnel. Because if you don't have a system around that, you're gonna face some challenges. So I think everyone listening kind of implicitly understands, we want to take some notes. We maybe want to set a reminder to call this person back in a couple of months if they say they're not ready to sell, but maybe they will be in a couple of months. But let's talk about really how you can absolutely leverage a CRM. And I'm going to phrase the question this way. How do the best investors, the most experienced investors who are going direct to seller, best utilizing a CRM? How do they best nurture the leads within a platform?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I would say definitely using drip campaign. I'm just going to speak specifically to REsimpli here. Yep. Definitely drip campaign. That is hands down the most vital thing. Or like if I ask our users, hey, what's the number one feature? Drip campaign, hands down, is the most important feature. So what that does is, let's say, let's go back to the example of kind of what you gave. Let's say if you have 10 leads that you're managing, right? There's only so much, like if you have a lead here and there, you can manage it on your phone, but keep in mind, you're not going to have, the notes, all the history, the call, everything that you have. You don't know, like if a seller says, let's say you're driving and seller says, hey, I want to sell, and he's throwing some numbers out, he's throwing some important information about his kid's name or whatnot. you're going to have to remember all this because you're not recording these conversations on your phone. But with a CRM, it's recording everything. So you could go back, you could talk to the seller on the phone, just be relaxed. You don't have to remember anything. You just have a natural conversation. You go back and everything is saved right there. But as you start scaling your business, you're going to have these 10 leads that you have to follow up. One way is you set a manual reminder on your phone and then call them, text them, email them, send them another letter or whatever marketing you're doing. Now imagine if you could just automate all of this, right? You set these leads on an automated follow-up sequence, and then the system would automatically send them a text message, email them. It's it's going from the phone number that they called you on. So for all practical purposes, you can tell the seller, hey, this is my cell phone number. You can call me on this number. You can text me on this number. It's ringing on your phone. It's ringing on the app. So, it's your number. And now with the automation, you put the automation that you put in place. If the seller said, hey, I'm not interested right now, but in 6 months time, when the weather warms up a little bit or whatever the reason might be, I'm going to be ready. Now, you don't want to wait until 6 months. What you want to do at that point is you want to have like a automated follow-up. So every month or every 6 weeks or every other month, just send a message. Hey, Mr. Seller, hope you're doing well. Just wanted to check in and see how you're doing. Let me know if you have any questions about the sale. You're not trying to push the sale, just staying on their radar, right? The most important thing I feel like with the marketing is not so much to, convert of course you want to, in the best case scenario, you want to convert the people that you're marketing to into a sale right then and there, but that's not going to happen. It's not realistic. The main purpose of marketing, the way I see it, is how do you stay on their radar? Maybe they don't have a need to sell their house right now, but they are going to have at some point. It's just a matter of time. So with Drip Campaign, what you do is you stay on top of their mind just by automating the follow-up. Like the system is sending them a text message, every so often, like once a month, every other month, once a quarter, depending on, their urgency, emailing them, sending them a direct mail, reminding you to make a call. So you can just basically set it and forget it. You come in, you see, the tasks that are assigned to you, which are basically call the lead. You just click on it, start calling the leads, and that's pretty much it. So you're automating a lot of it. So I would say, as you start getting more leads and you want to scale your business, you want to start automating a lot of this. You don't want to have to manually remind these things. And the more you can automate, the more you will be able to scale your business. And then, the more efficient business you'll be running at that point.
Yeah. No, I think something that I talk about a lot in our own business, where I'm working on the direct to seller side, and I have a full-time acquisitions manager in our business that also is, of course, heavily involved in the process of going direct to seller. And something that we talk about, and something that I talk about with other investors that are looking to do direct to seller marketing, is it's less about what you're saying from a follow-up standpoint, and just that you're showing up.
100%.
Yeah, they just need to see your name, and then they remember.
100%.
Yeah, and then it's all the volume of interactions they've had always comes back, right? And the worst position you can find yourself in, and I know because this has happened to me years ago, pre-CRM, before there's any organization in our business, was like, call the seller, built unbelievable rapport. We were very close on the price, but maybe the timing wasn't right. The seller liked us, liked our, liked everything that we were about, would have loved to have sold to us, but timing, price, etc. And then we just didn't do a good job of staying on their radar. And then they sell to somebody else at a price that we would have paid. And it was just because that other person was more recent.
Yeah. Exactly.
So you never want to screw that
up.
100%,
man. 100%. It's a cliche, but it is true. Like money is in the follow-up. It's just, you have to stay on, top of their mind. If you look at another context, let's say, you're not even in the market to buy a car. And I like to give this example, but you have this local Toyota dealership that sends you a postcard once a quarter, right? They just send you a postcard. Hey, we have the sale going on. They're not trying to say, hey, Sharad, come and buy this awesome car. We have this. They're like, hey, we have the sale going on. We have the sale going. You get, you're not even marketed to buy a car. Let's say your car breaks down, but you're looking to buy a car, just by default, just because, they've been sending you this postcard, you look at it, you toss it out, but just, it's planted a seed in your mind. Whenever you're ready to buy a car, just naturally, there's a very, very high likelihood you're going to look at that Toyota dealership and just kind of see what they have. just because they've been sending you that postcard. It's the exact same thing you're doing with your marketing, with your follow-up. It's being consistent. It doesn't matter. Like when people ask us, hey, what's the marketing I should do? I say the one that you can stick with the longest.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, every marketing works, but you want to do the one that you can stick with the longest. If you're going to direct mail 1 month, cold calling, PPC, third month, then nothing is going to work. You may get lucky here and there, but if you're not consistent enough with anything, you're not going to get anything. It's like going to gym. You can't just go to gym for a day and expect 6-pack, right? So it's the same thing, like follow up.
Especially in multifamily, right? Which is specific to this podcast and the folks listening to this. It is such a long sales cycle.
Yep.
It's you're very rarely hitting a person who is ready to go, that first contact, that first conversation. And in our space, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, we have a lot of investors, that are using REsimpli to buy large multifamily, buying apartment complexes. They're buying, mobile home parks. They're buying storage, spaces. So it's the fundamentals are the same, right?
Yes.
It's whether you're buying a single family house or you're buying a 300, 400 unit apartment complex that we have investors buying using REsimpli. It's the fundamental is the same. You're still trying to build a rapport with the seller. You're just staying on top of their mind. I mean, of course, the communication, the type of communication that you're going to have, or the marketing that you're going to do with, owner of a single family house, it's going to be different from, an owner of a large, apartment complex. That's going to be different. But the fundamentals behind that, that's the same. You still have to follow up. The way you follow up is going to be different. You're not going to send them, you could, but you're not, going to send them a cheap postcard. You may put a little bit more money into marketing, but you're doing the same thing. You're just staying on their top of their mind. So whenever they're ready to sell, at least they give you a fair chance of making an offer, if nothing else. So at least you feel like you had the shot to get this property. Like you mentioned, a few years ago when you missed out on deals, like you didn't even know, you could have easily paid for that property, but the seller didn't even think of you. Just seller didn't, like, imagine how frustrating that is. That seller didn't even think of, and you would have paid that price. You don't want to be in that position. You at least want to have a fair chance of making an offer. Then like, hey, more power to them. They're willing to pay $50, $60, $100, $200,000 more than what my max offer, but at least I got a chance to make an offer. So you make enough offers, you will get a property. But if you don't even get a chance to make an offer, like how would you ever get a deal out of it?
Yeah, there's no more frustrating feeling than building a relationship directly with a seller, and then you find out that 3, 6, 9 months later, they sell the property at a price you would have been willing to pay, and they're selling it to someone that they didn't build the same level of rapport with as they did with you because you dropped the ball along the way. That's like the most frustrating feeling, I think, in the business.
100. It would just, so we always, we go on an appointment. Our goal is at least we want to make an offer. We want to have a fair chance of getting a property. If somebody's willing to pay more than maximum of what we'll pay, hey, more power to them. It was out of our budget, but at least we got a chance to make an offer. You can only score points if you take shots. If you never take shots, how are you ever going to score points?
Yeah, exactly. So along the same lines here, we were just talking about some different strategies. We mentioned mail, we mentioned some other stuff here. A question that I just want to ask you very directly is, let's say we have a listener of the show here. If we can speak specifically to multifamily, great. I don't think it's necessarily important to do that because, as you mentioned, a lot of the fundamentals are the same from a direct-to-seller standpoint, regardless of who you're marketing to. But we have a listener, they have a portfolio, they don't do any direct-to-seller, they want to find a deal. What are some steps they should take in the next 90 days to begin going direct-to-seller and starting that process?
Yeah, I mean, I think for direct-to-seller, for these commercial large multifamily properties, I think you're going to have less luck doing SMS or cold calling. Generally speaking, for the most part, you depending on the size of the property that you're looking to buy, you're generally, dealing with more sophisticated investors, right? Versus buying from, mom and pop, owner that own like 1 or 2 properties. That's a different, knowledge or skill set or the resources that they have versus buying a property from someone that has portfolio of like 5 or 6 like 50, 60 unit properties or larger units. I like what I've what I have seen successful investors do really well with is direct mail. Direct mail tends to be, especially like good mail pieces, tend to make a difference, like a handwritten note to an investor, just expressing. And I've seen like people get really creative, depending on how big your list is. Like if you really want to ensure that your mail gets opened, send them like, a FedEx or UPS. I mean, who's not going to open a FedEx package, right? Or UPS package? Like just build relationships like that. Find a list of multifamily in your, in the target area that you have. And then depending on the list, you could either do like handwritten letters, or you could do professional letters, depending on how you want to market to them. If you want to market through your company, then you could do, corporate letter. Or if you want to do, build a more personal relationship, you could do handwritten letters, or just send them like, which we've seen some investors with like FedEx or UPS, send FedEx or UPS letters and express your interest. So, but again, the key would be marketing, right? Just reaching out to these sellers, expressing your interest and see how they respond. If you have, let's say, a list of 1,000 people, you could always, do A/B testing. Take 500, send them handwritten letters. Take other 500, send them like printed letters with your logo, with your corporate, your website, and see what sort of response you get. Which letter gives you better response, and then you have that. You have your winner, mail piece, and then do that to the other set and see if you get a response. And then once they respond, like you mentioned, it's about building rapport and then staying in touch with them. You're gonna, very rare cases, you're gonna get someone who owns commercial, multifamily property and said, hey, I'm ready to sell. Here's my offer. Are you willing to meet that offer? That may happen. It could happen, but very, very unlikely. In that case, you want to kind of find out about their situation. What is the problem? Like what triggered them to open your mail and call you? There must be some motivation. So you really want to start digging into that motivation. Like, what is it about, them looking to call? Like, just ask them, just have that conversation. And once you build a rapport, make sure you just like follow up with them and stay on their radar at that point.
Yeah, no, I think that's great advice. I mean, I think we've already talked about this. You just have to pick one strategy, one vehicle, and you need to go deep in that vehicle, versus spraying and praying and planting shallow seeds, so to speak, across a larger number
go
of
deeper
individuals.
rather than like wide. Definitely go deeper with it. Like, don't do direct mail 1 month, cold calling, texting, and then something else the next month. Just stick with one. I personally would say direct mail, especially like multifamily direct mail tends to be the best performing. These are not investors that are going on Google and saying how to sell my, multifamily properties. You generally, you need to reach out to them to express your interest. So if I were to pick one marketing channel, I would say direct mail.
Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense. A bit of a hypothetical question for you, because this is something I get asked a lot. And it's frankly something that we go back and forth with in our business. So let's say we have an investor who has, I'm trying to think of they have a budget of X $1,000, right? And they're thinking, do I send, maybe 4 mailings to a larger list, I don't know, 1,000 properties, or do I send a higher number of mailings, 8 mailings over the course of a year, or 6, every other month, to a smaller number? Do I want to send more to a smaller list, or should I send less frequently to a larger list? How should I approach kind of building the pipeline? And is there, I guess I'm just asking you to kind of freeball on how you would think about making a decision like that as it relates to marketing to different size lists and kind of allocating your budget differently.
That's a great question, man. I would pick more touches to a targeted list than, 1 or 2 touches to a broader list. Again, it's about like building relationship. When you think about it, these are not like 50, 60, $100,000 properties that you're looking to buy. These are like, multifamily properties. People generally tend to be more sophisticated. So, they're not, you may have people that are selling out of desperation, but, not a lot. So you want to build that relationship with them. So I would do more touches to a targeted list versus less touches to a broader list.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think, my 2 cents just to add to that, because I tend to agree, and that's typically what we do in our business, is in multifamily, right? Because the process is so long, and because these are individuals as sellers that have options, right? They can go speak with a broker. They probably have a network of brokers. They probably have a network of other investors that are doing the same thing as them. They probably also receive direct mail from a bunch of folks like yourself. It takes more work to earn the right to get the phone call,
Absolutely.
right? So, and so I think you, just by virtue of sending a lot of mail, obviously that helps you stay top of mind, but it also is passively building your reputation as somebody who is serious, because you've sent a lot of mail over a longer period of time, and you're clearly in the marketplace. If you tweak your messaging throughout, one mail really speaks to your ability to close. The next one speaks to your ability to make this a seamless transaction. The next one speaks to your ability to maybe help them facilitate a 1031 exchange or something like that.
Absolutely.
You're able to sell all the value props along the way.
Exactly. Yeah, just pick each mail piece or each communication they're doing about one value add that you would do to their business, and just build on that. I mean, if I were to put myself in the place of a seller, if someone mails me once or twice versus someone who's mailing me every other month, and they mail me 6 times in a year, and when I'm ready to sell, who am I going to call first? Just, I would just go to the person that's been mailing me consistently, serious, he's been selling, he's been giving me the value add on how he can, make my life easier by buying this property. So I would naturally give him a call.
Yeah, absolutely. You've already mentioned that the best marketing strategy or vehicle is the one that you're going to stick with the longest, right? And certainly agree. And I know it's very hard to answer this question, but is there a strategy or combination of strategies that you see working really well today? I'll define that as December 2023, which is when this episode is going to go live. Cold calling, SMS, emailing directly to owners. Do you have some kind of anecdotal feel for what's working really well for individuals out there? Something that's maybe not hot right now, but something that's producing?
I think SMS is definitely getting more challenging, in the regulations that we have from the carrier. So SMS is getting more and more challenging every day. I would say that's based on the data that we've looked at of the investors that are consistently doing deals. All of the investors that are consistently doing deals, they're doing direct mail, right? I'm not saying direct mail is their most profitable or highest revenue generator, but they have some piece of direct mail.
It's just a cornerstone of their strategy. It's just a part of it. Yes.
It's just a part of it. We have a lot of investors that are doing TV ads, radio ads, cold calling. But the ones that are doing consistent deals, they're all doing some direct mail. A lot of them may be doing direct mail as their primary. A lot of them might be doing just to a niche list that they have, but they're all doing direct mail. That's one thing we noticed. But not everybody is doing SMS. Not everybody is doing cold calling. Not everyone is doing PPC. So I would start out with, for multifamily, definitely look into direct mail. Again, you don't have to have a budget of 5,000, 10. Just start with a very small list, a very, very targeted list, and just start with whatever you can. Ask yourself, okay, what size of a list I can mail consistently, every other month for a year. Start with that. May be 10 people, 20 people, 30 people, 100 people, whatever it might be. Ask that question. If I could only mail, for a year, every other month, what size list I can afford? Just start with that and then see where that goes. Like you said, it's a much longer process, buying multifamily, but you want to make sure you start out, build the right first impression, start out with mail pieces, and then every mail piece keep adding, showing the potential seller how you can add value. What can you do for their business that will make their life easier? And then it's just a matter of time that, before you start actually getting some serious negotiations with sellers.
Love it. I think that's a great closing tip for everybody out there. I like that. Reverse engineer from what you're willing to spend over the course of a year and what's going to allow you to stay consistent over that period of time. work down into the list that you're able to market to that list at a high enough frequency so where you're putting yourself in a position to where you're earning the right to even see a deal, which has got to be, 4 or 5 plus times throughout the year at minimum, or else you're going to get lost in the shuffle. And I think that
Absolutely.
I think we're at the point now where obviously going direct to seller is still a very profitable line of your business to focus on if you're a real estate investor. It is getting a little bit more competitive because there's more people that understand that this is an option to generate deal flow than 2, 3, 10 years ago. So it does require a little bit more attention and consistency, a little bit more of a spend to get these deals done. So you really need to put yourself in a position where you can do this for a longer period of time. Or else you're just going to get discouraged and frustrated. You're not going to see the results. So I think that's a great closing tip. But I'll make sure we get you out of here on time, Sharad. Where can people learn more about what you have going on, learn more about REsimpli, anything else that you want to plug?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm not on any social media. Thank God for that. But I check my email. So yeah, you can reach me at like sharad@resimpli.com. And if they want to find a little bit more about REsimpli, they can go to resimpli.com, REsimpli.com. And if they email me, sharad@resimpli.com, yeah, I check my emails, or, I'll make sure I reply back to anybody that has any questions, anything I can help with.
Awesome. Sounds great. I'm going to link, just REsimpli in the description along with your email there. For all the listeners as well, I'm an affiliate of REsimpli. We use it in our business. The only reason I'm an affiliate is because we use it. So I'm going to throw my affiliate code into the show notes as well. Might be taking some money out of Sharad's pocket by even just mentioning this right now as it relates
to all good, man.
There's some upside in using it.
That's the best check we write every month.
Yeah, that's money well spent for sure. But highly recommend you check out the platform if you're an investor that's spending a couple of bucks on marketing and you want to organize your business. It's been great for us, and we're going to keep using it, throughout 2024 and into the future. So all good things to say. But Sharad, I appreciate you coming on and sharing your story, sharing all this value, and look forward to getting this one up.
Cool. Thank you, man. Thank you so much, and have a great rest of the day. Thanks.